Wow, did I get tons of comments and thoughts on my last video on global warming. Bad news for me is, especially on YouTube, a lot of dislikes, but that's okay. I appreciate the comments very much. I had two sort of themes that ran through there. One was that I was an idiot and not a scientist, which is true. I even had one guy, you should go to YouTube and read it. Man, the expletives that he used to describe me, woo! Man, that was creative writing. And I commented back, hey, obviously you know my criteria. I'm just curious what yours is. Love to see what he says on that. But anyway, the other sort of consensus among my comments was that there is a consensus among scientists about global warming. And I want to speak to that just briefly. Now, I looked up the IPCC, which is the UN body, and they have their own website, by the way, that sort of gives us all the stuff on climate change and global warming, and they've sort of framed the argument. And they say there's three basic points. Point one is that there has been warming over the past 50 years across the Earth. Point two, man's the main reason for it. Point three, if these trends continue, it's going to create catastrophic results down the road. Now let's talk about this and this consensus idea. On the first one, that the temperatures have risen, no doubt there's a consensus there. The challenge is, though, the IPCC said they've risen between 0.2 and 1.7 degrees. That's a huge difference. And I would assume that on the 0.2 side, there's not much disagreement there. But on the 1.7 or higher, there's not consensus. Believe me, I just Googled around and found all kinds of scientists, and some say it's even above the 1.7, but there's certainly not agreement when you get on that upper side. As far as man being the cause, again, if you look at the release and the dynamic increase of carbons in the atmosphere, no denying that. Total consensus that through this industrial age and the population explosion, there's been a huge increase, carbons going up into the atmosphere. But to say that that is the primary cause of the temperature rise, guess what? That's not a consensus. I found tons of articles again. One meteorologist, a scientist from Australia, has written numerous papers on why, and he is a believer, by the way, why he does not accept this view that man is the primary reason for the climate change, even though the IPCC says they believe 90% chance that it's mainly caused by man. But the bottom line is there's just not a consensus. And as far as the catastrophic results down the road, again, you'll get a consensus that says if the temperatures continue to rise, especially in the ocean, there's going to be a rise in the water levels. Let's take our East Coast, for instance. No doubt there's a consensus there. But when you go ahead and say that New York is going to be destroyed down the road, there's not a consensus there. That's all I'm saying. And what you have inadvertently done is made this a philosophical argument and moved it out of the realm of science. It's almost like discussing the existence of God. I mean, whether you believe in God or not, that is not a scientific argument. It's a metaphysical debate. Well, global warming is not a philosophical argument. It is strictly a scientific debate. So if a scientist comes out with a paper or some study that he's done that contradicts whatever the norm is, do we throw it away and reject it? Say, oh, he must be working for the oil companies? Or do we say, let's have a debate. Let's look at this. And by the way, I appreciate the science comments some of you guys sent me. I'm a learner. I love reading that. So let's get this out of the realm of religion, please. Because you know what religion leads us to? Either salvation or doomsday. That's why Bob Geldof recently talked about how the world is going to be destroyed as we know it 20 or 30 years because of climate change. Guess what? There's another idiot like me, but he's a believer. His faith is in all you guys and your global warming activism. Total believer, hook, line, and sinker. He is converted. Well, I'm not yet. So is that the realm we wanted in? No. Let's get it back to science. Send me your comments. I love them.